morning. It is the 20th of August today. I am slightly more awake than last time I started a vlog because I actually slept okay today, somehow. I say that having made myself a massive thing of caffeines. We'll see if tonight is the same or not. We are once again on another It Is the Weekend. I have lots of shit to do drive, so I have got a load of video editing to do. If you don't know, I do 2 YouTube channels, so I've got a video to go out for this channel today, and I've got one to go out for my Sims channel tomorrow, both of which need a lot of work. That's going to be the main aim of the day, but I want to get in a decent amount of like outlining, or at least some. I want to feel like I'm progressing. So I've come up with a slight idea, which I will tell you about once I've made a very, very quick list of everything else I should do today, and just get that out of my brain, and then we'll come back and I will tell you the plan for today. I've worked through a little bit of a list. It's very, very small, really. Well, it's very small, but everything on it is kind of big. So I want to edit the video to go out today, post that, and then the video for my Sims channel for tomorrow, and then ideally get a bit of the way through editing next week's, because next weekend I am completely booked out, so I need to start getting ahead on these. In terms of like other house stuff, there's some beef in the fridge that needs to become jerky, which I'm going to try and do later, and tidy up the living room because it's a little bit of a mess. But we have one category down here which I have not filled in, which is the outlining category, and that is where today's outlining plan come in, and the slightly different way I'm going to do it. So it is going to involve these, the clacky maths rocks, as I call them. I have been playing RPG games and like dice-based games since I was probably like 18 with any kind of seriousness, and I'm doing bits and pieces from that point on. So I have a collection of these like you wouldn't believe, because for some reason I just adore these. Any kind of clacky rock. So the plan today is I'm going to roll all of these, which is just a basic 7 dice set, and then we're going to assign things to them. So I had 2 ways I was thinking of doing this. Firstly, I roll them and every number on here is just a sprint I have to do, which I think is going to be today, looking at how much editing I actually have to do in here. The other one that I'm thinking at some point I might do for like a weekend or a week is to roll them and have each dice mean something. So for example, the 20-sided dice would be like the length of the sprint, and then maybe the D12 is like how many sprints I have to do, and then I don't know, maybe like the D6 is how many caffeinated drinks I'm allowed. We can have a lot of fun with that, I think. If you've got any ideas for that, let me know down below. The one caveat I'm not going to do is the percentile dice, which, because what you would normally do with one of these is you would roll one of those alongside one of these. So essentially this would give you a chance to get from 1 to 100. I absolutely fundamentally, if I give myself something in the hundreds or even like an 80, it's not going to happen. So we're going to ignore the percentile dice for this round. Maybe at another point, if I do this and I have less editing to do, or I've got like a whole day, or we're in nano, I may include that. But for now, I'm going to go for the 6 dice that we normally would have, apart from that percentile. For anyone who is not a massive nerd when it comes to the cookie maths rocks, I will put up alongside what the dice say. It will be like a D and then how many sides. So this is like a D20 because it's 20-sided. There'll be what most people recognise, which is like a D6, which is your normal standard dice. And then there's like cool little pointy ones like the 4-sided, but it'll all say D20, D12. It just means that that's how many sides the dice has. We're gonna roll it. Now we get to see my very worn homemade dice tray, which is just 2 photo frames with a very, very bad hinge job. Okay, let's do this. I feel like that's been fairly generous to me. We've got a 1, we have another 1, we have a 2, focus phone, we have a 5, we have a 10, and we have a 12. So we've got 31 minutes worth of sprints out of all of those. I think because of how generously it's rolled me, I'm going to take this individual sprints. So at some point I've got to do a 12, a 10, a 5, a 2, and 2 separate 1-minute sprints. What I'm going to say is that I can't overdo any of these to take away from any of the others. So for example, these 1-minute sprints, if I actually did that as like a 3-minute, I couldn't take 2 minutes off of that. The minimum value of the sprint has to be the value of the dice, and then if I overdo it, If I get kind of excited and I want to do a bit more, it will just be extra time. I will count up like how much extra I do. That's the plan for today then. I will write those down and we will get to doing some various things today. Not in order, because apparently that would have been too much effort because I started with the D20, because I always start with the D20. This is the plan for maybe the whole weekend. I'd prefer to see how much I can get through today, so that similar to last weekend, I can have like the Sunday where I'm doing like the lower necessary jobs, or maybe like this stuff becomes Sunday and this shit is all today. First things first, I'm gonna get into my calendar app and try and plan out a little bit roughly where things will go, but I'm not going to hold myself too much to it today. If I get to a certain amount of editing and then go, oh my god, I don't want to do any more of this video, I will switch over to something else. And that'd be the theme of today. I have a feeling, sorry, I've got a slightly different, like, utensil's not the right word, I've got a slightly different tool for holding up my camera, and I think it's wonky and I can't find an angle because it's attached to my desk that this doesn't shine through and change all the lighting around. What feels different between this weekend and last weekend is that last weekend I absolutely could do like a 2-hour run of something, and I feel like I did. I feel like I just ran through a bunch of stuff in like one specific section. So I did the AuthorTube video, and then I did like a SimStube video, then I did bits and pieces of other things. Today, because it's been a week of bad sleep, and it's been quite a long week. It just felt like a long week. I feel like my brain is kind of bouncing all over the place, and I would prefer to be able to offer myself the chance to go do 20 minutes here and do a little couple of minutes there and back and forth, and just make progress on lots of things. So we shall see how this goes. But the priority is getting an AuthorTube video out for you guys today, the 20th. So hopefully, if I've succeeded, you will have already seen that video. But if not, this one might come out far later. Let's do it. Of the clips I just used, but I originally had you on this thing here, and it was fine until I realised that if I moved my desk at all, that wobbled. It's about 10:30. We did about an hour 20 quite solidly of AuthorTube. I say we. I did. I wasn't expecting to do that. Like I said earlier, I was expecting my mind to want to jump around. The additional problem I've come across is now that I've stopped, I don't want to start again. I went to go have a quick conversation with my partner and pick up my Oreos. I had to go to the shops this morning to get in a couple of bits and pieces, and I found the Oreos and I went, I'm doing it. So they may be part of my breakfast this morning, and then I'll try and find something healthier to have later. I think we're going to attempt to do the first of the dose sprints because of the way that my brain is convincing me that I should go for a nap rather than do anything else, which is a little bit worrying considering how much caffeine I've consumed in the last hour. I think I'm going to start with the higher sprint, because I'm not convinced I'm going to get all the way through them if I don't. So the highest one we had was the D12, which gave me its top mark. So we've got 12 minutes to do. I'm going to put on a timer. One thing that might slightly throw me off on this today, when I was going to the shops this morning, I had another audiobook in, but I don't know if anyone else does this, where you're listening to an audiobook and then your brain just wanders off onto your project and you don't realise until you've not been listening to the book for a little while. What I've currently got is a situation where I've got my main character who meets a pair of twins, and they are kind of integral to the crew. They're kind of the starting point of the crew. And the problem I've got with the current bit of outlining I'm doing, and with previous versions of this book, is I've got no reason for them to stay together. The earlier reasons have been kind of vague, and usually it's that one of the twins gets kind of invested, either in the main character, or the main character gives the idea of what she's doing and her like revenge plot very, very early on, and takes one of them in and gets one of them excited about the concept, and then the other one thoroughly dislikes it. Or in this one, I've had her kind of use her magic slightly to save one of them, but it doesn't keep them in proximity enough to start getting along. What I've currently got, and what I was thinking about last time I was doing some outlining, is like, well, you know, maybe they have a fight and the twins walk off somewhere, and it's just, and then their life gets threatened and she has to go help. Would she though? I don't think she would. So what I need is a reason to keep them slammed together. because I've gone through all the books, which some advice will tell you don't do and some advice will tell you to do, I have a slight benefit in that I know some characters who are going to become more important later. And there's one character who appears kind of for the first time in book 6 and is could be pretty important to what's going on around them. And what I'm wondering is, where would that character have been in this book? Is there any possibility that kind of a vague overseeing character I've got in this book could be her? The twins are currently working for someone, getting a bit of money, trying to live like on the outskirts of the empire, trying to stay away from all the kind of drama. And I like the idea that that's the person that they're working for, is this person that later will become more important in kind of more of the war effort. But I also am very aware that I am starting to add in a lot of that. A lot of this person shows up here and then turns up back here, and a lot of coincidence. But what I'm trying to do in this book is add in more of the kind of, for want of a better way of putting it, the kind of fumbling around of the gods in the lives of my characters. The idea of having this, not quite coincidence, but this idea that the gods know who the important people are and are kind of keeping an eye on it. And when two important people kind of meet each other or get close to each other, the gods are like, right, that needs to either stop and we're going to intervene to try and stop that from happening, or I'm going to push this together and I need them to kind of, for the point of the rest of the fate, stay together and do things. So a lot of this book, it feels like coincidence, but I feel like if I tackle it right, with this kind of air of the particular goddess that my main character is kind of with, or is being overlooked by, I think we could make this feel like it is a point to it. So I'm going to play around with that idea. But what that will require is her essentially setting them, the twins that are working for her, like a mission that for some reason they all need to return back. They all need to return back together with whatever she sends them away to go and do being done. But that's collecting something. I'm kind of tempted to have her force them to go and meet the person who is the bad guy. All kinds of things could happen. But it does mean everything I've done before may need a rejig, which is always fun. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all of that in 12 minutes, but that's what I'm thinking at the moment, is that the current outline gets to kind of the midpoint and gets boring. And while I want this series to be over a number of books, I need this first book to either be as interesting as possible as character based, or as interesting as possible with elements of character and plot. I don't think I can pull off this whole series if everything's plot based, like entirely plot and the character's kind of not as important. It needs to have a good element of character, but the level of how important plot is the thing that can vary slightly, and I could have a slightly lighter plot book and really go in on the characters here. But I do need some plot. At the moment, there's just nothing that would be holding these characters together. Even at the outline stage, I'm looking at it going, yeah, if these split away, if these two go off and my main character goes off that way, they aren't going to come back together unless it is some kind of massively weird coincidence. They need to be forced together with enough tension to keep them together and keep them kind of fighting with each other almost, until they decide that, yes, she's the kind of person we could follow and do something with. I've rambled on for almost as long as I should have been sprinting. We're going to hit a timer. We are going to attempt to put some of that in here, because I feel like if I can get that sorted in the first act, then hopefully I can follow through and decide whether or not this is that character. Because the other thing, because of all the kind of piratey stuff around it, I do have a particular character who's almost, for want of a better way of wording it, like the grandfather of a lot of these pirates. Like, has a crew that is always quite small, but is usually churning. Like, there's usually people who come in, join them for a couple of years, leave. He does a lot of like mentoring younger pirates and then kind of sending them off, and they go and they develop their own big crews. And so there's a lot of people who know this person, and I've given my main character something quite distinct that shows that she has been with this person before, and I kind of want more people that she meets to kind of go, oh, I know that person, and like really establish the fact that this one pirate has been essentially from all of his lifetime just running around in space, developing connections, some positive, some not so positive, with lots and lots of people. And not that it gives her necessarily an edge, but that it makes people look at her and go, oh, you were technically like under that captain for a period of time, whether or not it felt like that. You were technically under that captain. So either I respect you a little bit more than just a random person I meet on the street, or I detest you completely and you're in danger. Kind of want to bring that element in a bit more. So the other thing I want to try and do today during these sprints, and again, I'm waffling, but I'm doing it anyway. I had a bit of a brainstorm, and I've said this in multiple clips that I was going to look at the whole series and the plots of all of them, and I haven't done. I kind of got distracted, but I want to look at the books I've got, try and determine what kind of tropes I already have in the other books, because I feel like a trope that I always seem to gravitate to is one of the people gets captured. I get that a lot, and I need to stop putting it so much. It's very much of a crutch point for me now. So what I might do at some point, hopefully, is to go through the books and try and think about what kind of tropes they have in them, what tropes I could like add in there, or what I could slightly tweak so that I'm not doing the same thing book in, book out. I am tempted to find a list of like common book tropes and just start thinking, using those as kind of starting points to, do I want to add something like that in there, like those kind of bits and pieces. Yeah, I have literally been recording now longer than I would have sprinted for, so we're going to do it. We're just going to sprint, we're going to go, we're moving on back. Slight gap in that where my internet dropped and my timer stopped, but I've done 12 minutes, so that's one of them down. Not only have I started interweaving this potentially more important person into this kind of manager role almost of the twins, but I've also started to look at what other obstacles are in the way. And what I've got in this book is a lot of obstacles that are kind of there for a moment and then they go. There's no kind of interweaving of them. So I've kind of added to some of the early kind of issues she has and made them so they appear later in the book and they're part of something bigger, but they still push her in the direction she needs to go. Quite productive for 12 minutes, if I'm honest. It is time now to try and do some editing for my Sims stuff, and then we'll try and get another one of these in. I'm going to try and do some of these in breaks this time. I got really kind of into the editing for the AuthorTube. I didn't realise that I'd already started the editing, and actually I got most of the way through, and then I was watching the second pass of it. If you have watched last week's video, there's a couple of things I was doing where like when I did the piano in the last vlog, I sped it up, and usually what I do when I'm speeding up clips is immediately mute it and never listen to it. But for some reason I listened, like I hit play and I hadn't muted the audio on it, and it was just like high-pitched tinkling because of how much I've sped it up, so I left that in because it was good. But just like little things, like I was putting the music in, and I usually pick the music based on like what I think sounds cool, while trying to kind of make the vibe of the vlog work. And I put in a kind of heavier track, and a part of me was like, yeah, that feels like we're kind of, the montages are moving forward, and the B-roll is like going, and kind of made me feel like, yeah, the B-roll is kind of pushing forward and it's epic and it's cool. But it just started making it seem like every single bit of extra clip I did was like a Rambo montage, which was not what we were aiming for. So it was like slightly softer. So that's queued up to export, which I'll probably export at some point if I had to go take a lunch break. But it's time for some Sims, and then we'll get back to this. I kind of feel like I'm going to forget where I left stuff, but this is the problem with doing shorter sprints. Is like right now there's a big part of me that would just like to continue doing other outlining, but unfortunately right now it's just not the priority. So I need to try and get my head into the Sims, but like maybe do some switching out for some outlining, and I'll give you a shout when I do. Okay, it has been about 20 minutes and we are only about 5 minutes into my hour and 20 recording for the Sims video. I do not see that being ready by tomorrow. Also, I want to point out, I'm not sponsored by Starbucks. I swear that's in every clip that I do now. It's just the Starbucks logo very prominently there. I am going to do another one of the sprints. I think I'm going to try and do the 10-minute one while I've still got some of what I was thinking about in my head before I get too much into the Sims stuff. So that's the next plan. Try and work through a bit more of that kind of adding earlier bits in to see if I can feed the next act. So let's get back to it. I've had a couple of realizations. There's a couple of ways I can spin this. So using that kind of sort of benefactor, I think I'm using the word for the twins, to kind of raise the stakes, try and have each individual person kind of fighting against everything, have some like realizations later on when they talk to other people, have some ways it all connects in. I think we're getting there. What I am realizing though is I need to go, what this is doing is changing things like about halfway through where I was. So I need to run through it all and make sure it all makes sense now, but I don't think it does. But I also am realizing that this could enable some pretty good consequences for this. So when this person does reappear in a later book, how does she react to the people in this book? In the end, do they actually help her? Do they go against her? What did she want them to do? Really, what did she tell them to do? What happened? I could really play with that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. The 10 minutes now is done. So we are 2 out of the 6, and now collectively I have a 5-minute sprint, a 2-minute sprint, and 2 1-minute sprints left. So 8 minutes in total to do for the rest of the day. So I think we are going to have to go back to some Sims editing. I might take a quick break in a little bit, but I'm going to try and do a little bit more, and then I might get another coffee. So it is about almost 4. I've just done the 3rd sprint, the 5-minute one. So we are now only needing the 2-minute and the 2 1-minutes. I don't know if I'll do them today. I might do. The part of me that's kind of tempted to maybe later like try and do some stuff. What I'm doing at the moment is writing out my 9 books and putting in, if this were like a 3-act structure over the series, at what point are we in the books roughly? So normally your act 2 would be bigger than your other acts, so like at which point are we hitting which like Save the Cat beat? Do we pick up any crew? Who's having the flashbacks? What's the main plot summary with maybe like a trope or a genre to the plot? And then like 1, 2 and 3 for like subplots in there, and then a romantic subplot. Have we got anything like that happening? So the idea is if I can fill that out with the ideas I've currently got and see if I end up with a very sparsely occupied book somewhere, and then essentially do the same thing, so take a copy of that, but try and condense it down to 6 books and see what happens. Because there are, at least on here I can see, 1 flashbacks, maybe 2 flashbacks I could just not have, and then there's 2 characters who come in together who I could do separate flashbacks for, or I could do them together. It does make me kind of feel a little bit like maybe that those characters would be always seen as like together, which is kind of not the point, but I feel like it might be a little bit more interesting, if not a little bit more confusing, because my 2nd book has 2 characters flashbacking together, but that's because they're siblings and they grew up together, so we can do that quite easily, whereas these 2 are completely different areas, so we might have the main story going, one of the characters flashbacks, one of the other characters flashbacks, and kind of interlacing, and it might end up getting quite confusing. But if I haven't got enough plot to fill 9 books, that will do it. So that's currently what I'm thinking. Because now this first book is actually, the plot of it's feeling nicer, we might end up being able to kind of shift some of this around. I don't know. So that's the thinking. I probably will do more work on this. If I do, I will film like clips of like the 1 minute, 2 minute thing, but I'm getting quite mentally tired. I've finished the AuthorTube video this morning. I haven't exported it yet. I have nowhere near finished the Sims video for tomorrow, so no idea what I'm going to do about that, but that's a tomorrow problem for me now. I could maybe do some more tonight, but who knows. So thank you so much for watching. I've been Nikki Star, and I will see you in the next one.